The Spirituality Now podcast is sponsored by Delaflor Teachings International, a spiritual and systemic coaching and consulting company with the mission to help individuals, businesses, and corporations create brilliant futures through sustainable transformation. Also sponsored by the Network for Human Empowerment, a philanthropic TV network that serves Spanish-speaking communities with free, conscious education aimed to empower individuals to become the best versions of themselves. And our podcast producer, Ascend Media, Authority Syndication, delivering premium video marketing, podcast production, and social syndication.
Welcome to the Spirituality Now podcast, a podcast committed to supporting you in your journey to life mastery and personal enlightenment. Welcome to the Spirituality Now podcast. I am your host, Yvonne de la Flor. This podcast was formerly known as Sovereign Futures Podcast. And what you didn't hear and what you didn't see is that before I logged in and I checked in to record this new podcast for you all, I had to restart this podcast because I was saying hi like Sovereign Futures. But I'm using this intro as a reminder to everyone that it is okay to redo things. It is okay to, when you fall, to stand up. It is okay to change your mind, to delete and do things over and over again. Any host. So today, today we're starting the conversations of the Spirituality Now podcast. We're going to a next level of faith. And the reason that I'm telling you this is we're recording this in October. I believe it's October 4. If my imagination and my mindset that is not very aligned with time. I'm more into the now. I'm more into the taking action now. I use time as a measure of just organization, but I'm more focused on productivity. So time management is not that kind of my gig. It's more what one of my mentors, Mr. Tim Grover, says is more focus management. I just allocate certain times and just do intensively a lot of things, right? Hopefully well and aim to excellence. But I'm going to focus and allocate a lot of the podcast towards faith. Faith has been the fuel of my life, the fuel of my mission. That's the gift my mother gave me when I was really, really young. And I'll do another podcast to explain that. I actually have many videos filmed around faith. Faith is my fuel. Faith, self-faith restoration is the why I help people. I'm really passionate. I really don't even think about me when I'm talking about faith. I think about what faith can do, what it has done, what it will do, and the power that faith has when taken into action. So our next guest, starting with our guest today, I'm going to be asking them about faith. And actually, we just interviewed an incredible woman, lady. She is the co-author of the book Winning and Relentless with Tim Grover, is Shari Wenk. And she gave a definition of faith and spirituality that I was like, the Michael Jordan definition of faith. But today I have a guest that I connected with him, and I'll talk to him about it via one of our coaches, Mr. Jesse Itzler, and one of the coaches and mentors that I've been building up the podcast to be able to come to him and say, I've earned my right. I paid my dues. Come as a guest to my podcast, Mr. Chad Wright, who is truly the embodiment of what I live for, which is faith in action. And I met our guest, Mr. Mike Bellini. I hope I'm saying your last name right, Bellini, through the connection with Jesse Itzler, Chad Wright, social media that today, October 4 on planet Earth, apparently is down, but faith is up. When things go down in humanity, when things seem to go dark, when things seem to be in contraction mode, like in the womb, when a child is going to be born, before he's born, there are contractions. Mamas can understand me. And when we experience the contraction, our duty as humanity, as human citizens, as in a common humanity, is to what Jesse Isler says, remember tomorrow, have faith, and actually act upon the faith of that which is not seen. So let me introduce you to my guest. Born and raised in rural Massachusetts, after going to business school in Boston, he moved to the Southeast where he met his wife. He resides in Nashville, Tennessee with his wife of 25 years. I mean, that's just like we need more of those families, and two children. He has worked in healthcare for 14 years. That should be interesting for the conversation we're going to have with the current situations in the world. He's currently working in a supply chain for one of the largest hospital corporations in America. He has spent the last year and a half helping supply hospitals with critical needs as a result of the pandemic. He has been active in church ministries throughout his adult life. Mike has taught classes for adults and children, and he created and led a small group lessons for teenager boys from grades 7 to 12. He has led an annual prayer service. Oh, I love this, on the National Day of Prayer. He started a daily prayer ministry. Mike, I didn't know about this about you. I need to join. He taught parenting classes. He is also, I mean, anyone that you meet through Jesse Isler or Chad Wright, I mean, I think I'm the beginner athlete because everybody's like, look at Mike. He's an ultra marathon runner. And all the people that I met through Chad and through Jesse are like, how many times have you done the Ironman? I'm like, half of one, you know? So he has written 8 motion picture screenplays. What? And he's releasing his first book in early 2022 on marriage. And we're going to talk about that, on the importance of restoring faith in family, on togetherness, on unification, and on faith in generally and God. I don't know, Mike, you know, I'm a Christian. I just got baptized by choice, and I had a very interesting experience with that in 2019, just before the pandemic. Was raised Catholic, but so let us begin. So after all this rant that I just gave and introducing you to my amazing guest, Mike, the microphone is all yours, my friend. Welcome.
Oh, wow. Well, thank you very much. I can't tell you how excited I am to talk to you about this topic. It's certainly a topic that is needed in our culture today throughout the world. It's always needed, but we are going through a time that I've never seen in my lifetime, and I don't think we're going back. There's a new future, and I'm praying for a better future, a future that is closer to God. And like you, I'm a Christian, and it has been the bedrock of my life, my family, everything that I do for the better part of my adult life and a good part of my my youth as well. So I just want to thank you for this conversation. It's very much needed.
Wow, you know, I love that. You know, I love that you said a new future. And I've always thought like the future of God. You know, I always believe that Jesus is like my jam. You know, he's my role model of leadership. My most favorite moment of what I know of Jesus and what it feels right in my soul is when he like flipped the tables. And I think that Christians, women and men of faith, women and men that are really driven to create new futures for humanity, for our future civilization, for children, they are not going to be afraid to flip tables now, to do what is right, like what you're doing, you know, with like speaking up about the importance of marriage, writing a book of the most important institution. You know, and I'm going to say, like, a lot of people say I divorced and it's okay, it was for the better. I regret, you know, I do live with the feeling of like, oh, I wish I would have never divorced. I understand the circumstances and everything, but I also, you know, feel the importance and feel it in my soul how important not the institution made by man of marriage is, but the marriage of two people coming together and creating a mastermind with God. As Napoleon Hill used to say, when two minds have a definite purpose and come together, the third mind, which is, I believe, is the Holy Spirit, is the mind of God, descends, and they create the most powerful mastermind on earth. So tell us a little bit about that work. We're going to start right from with the end in mind. Why are you writing this book? What is this book about? And why is family and faith important for the current state of the world?
Wow, it's a great question, and I appreciate that, because it's a passion of mine. Family and marriage has always been a passion of mine. I've really dedicated the last 25 years of my life to my family and to my wife, it's in all transparency, at the detriment of our finances at times, our status at times, and so. Why am I writing the book? Really, I'm writing it out of obedience. I got the idea while I was reading another book back in January of 2020, and I had no inclination, no desire whatsoever to write a book. I tried starting to write a book over 20 years ago. I stopped and said, I'll never do that again because it'll take me forever, and I didn't have the patience to do it. But in January of 2020, I really feel like God hit me with an idea. And within a matter of about 5 minutes, I had an outline of a book put together based on my own marriage. And so I put that down. I picked it up a few months later and just decided that it was something that I felt like I needed to do. And essentially, I started asking myself, if I were to tell people, I've had a very good marriage for 25 years. It's not great. It's not perfect. It can be a lot better, but I know from other people that have talked to my wife and myself that they look up to us in some ways, friends of ours and family members, and how my wife and I have done marriage for 25 years. And let's face it, we don't do marriage very well anymore. I don't know when that started. I'm not sure if we ever did, but in our culture, we don't hold it in high esteem. We don't stress the importance of it to our children. We don't stress the importance of it to each other. But it's always been important to me, and so I looked at my marriage and just thought, okay, if I were to describe to someone what has been the main drivers of a marriage that has really limited some of the valleys over 25 years, have experienced some mountaintop experiences over 25 years, and has honestly, Yvonne, has kept the love and the passion alive during that time, through kids, through financial struggles, through moving, through all that stuff. And what came to mind were 16 distinct moments that taught us lessons that were significant in the moment and propelled us to get through the 25 years and keep that love and that passion and that commitment really not just alive, but growing stronger over that time. And I know it's so cliche to say, I love my spouse more today than I did when we first got married. It's so cliche to say that, but boy, it's true. If you do it well, it's so true. And to your point earlier, Scripture says that, and I'll paraphrase because I don't remember it exactly, but a cord of two strands is not easily broken. 3 strands is stronger still. That third strand is Jesus in our marriage. And we look to him to lead it. And that, I tell you, without that, I don't know how people get through marriage over 25 years or 50 years like my parents did. They modeled it, but I wanted more than what my parents had. I wanted love, laughter, as few of those rocky moments as possible. Not that we avoid them, but we find ways to smooth them out and get through it. And so to really kind of culminate your question, my passion and my conviction is that if families in America would turn into each other and strengthen each other and love each other and take care of each other, if the family unit would become stronger and stronger across more and more families in America, we would see change in this country